everyone, Olivia Reiner here for Packers News, joined by Pete Doherty, and we are here in AT&T Stadium where the Packers are 3-0 over their last several contests, including the playoffs as well. So will they be able to keep that success up tonight, Pete? That is what we are going to find out. We just got the injury report moments ago, so why don't we start off as we usually do by discussing that. We found out that Kevin King is in fact active, the cornerback who did not practice all week. He was out with a groin injury. And we found out that Dexter Williams, the rookie running back who we all assumed would step up in the place of the injured Jamal Williams, he's inactive. The Packers recently called up Trey Carson from the practice squad yesterday. Someone who spent some time on the practice squad of the Packers last season, came back this season, did not make the team, but was signed to the practice squad. It looks like he will be the running back behind Aaron Jones today.
Yeah, that's two big things there. Kevin King playing and Kevin King finishing are two different things. It seemed like last year, the couple times when he came back, he'd get hurt and he wouldn't even get through the second quarter. So that's something to keep an eye on. I think their defense gets a lot worse when he goes off the field. And as we were talking yesterday even, or Thursday, Dexter Williams not being active today doesn't bode well for it. It suggests that he's having his problems because he's a much better guy with the ball in his hands than Carson is. Carson's pretty limited, but playing in this kind of environment, they want a guy out there they can depend on. They know he's going to pick up the blitzes and all that if he has to play. And so they went with Carson, and that means Dexter Williams is not coming along as fast as they would like, or he probably should be.
Hello to everybody over on Facebook, Periscope, YouTube, wherever you are in the world. We really get all of you guys from all over the place, so we love to hear from you. Thank you for joining us. Make sure if you're in our Facebook chat right now, I am also there with you too. So leave us some of your questions. We'll take a look at it, and Pete and I will try to give you some more insight into what is going on with the game today. But before we get there, let's read off all of the Packers inactives. Pete, why don't you do the honors?
You want me to do that?
You have it up right on your phone right there. I see it.
So we've got Devontae Adams, Tony Brown, Cole Madison, Adam Pankey, Dexter Williams, Jamal Williams, and Tim Williams.
So 3 of the 4 Williamses.
It's a bad weekend to be a Williams if you're a Packers player, I guess.
Don't tell Tremont Williams that. He doesn't want to hear it. He's active.
He's borderline indestructible.
This is true.
I mean, it's amazing how it's a skinny little guy, and he's almost never hurt.
He's getting, how old is he now, 36?
Oh, he's 36, yep. I think, yeah.
All right.
Which is, for this game and for that position, cornerback in particular, that is, like, ancient. It's amazing.
So keep it hush. You might hear us back there.
Oh, I think he knows.
All right, guys. So let's discuss a couple other big details. Obviously, the biggest, Devontae Adams is not active for today's game. He sustained a turf toe injury in the game against the Philadelphia Eagles last week. First obvious big name that is going to have to step up in his place is Jimmy Graham. He's someone that actually had one of his more productive games of the season so far last game against the Eagles. I believe it was something around 6 receptions for 61 yards or so. No touchdowns. But that being said, how much are they going to be looking to Jimmy Graham to step up and fill in for Devontae Adams?
I've been going back and forth on this, and I'm not sure whether, is it him or Valdez-Scantling, or is this going to be more of just a collective thing where instead of having one guy with 10 catches, they're going to have 3 guys with 6 catches, something like that. So, you never know how the game is going to unfold. Graham did have a pretty decent game, except that he had the huge drop in the end zone. His yards per catch tells the story there. He's just not the explosive guy he was when he was an all-pro tight end. I'm not so sure Valdez-Scantling isn't their best option for. I wonder if that's the guy they're going to try to feed the ball to most. Could be Graham because of experience, but Valdez-Scantling is their most talented receiver at this point.
So aside for the game through the air, let's take a look at the running game as well. We've got a question here from Nathan, he wants to know, will the Packers run the ball with consistency in today's game? They sure want to.
Yeah.
They are averaging 3.5 yards per carry, which I believe is 26th in the league right now. Their longest gain is a 15-yard run. It's not exactly where they want it to be. Matt LaFleur put a lot of emphasis at the beginning of the season, before the season started, that the run game
when he got
hired.
Yeah.
He is all about the run game, and the run game is what helps establish the pass game. And so far, at least, I mean, it has not looked very good. Late in the game against the Eagles, they abandoned the run game entirely. How do they get back on track, especially given the fact that Jamal Williams is out today?
So some of it may have been that the Eagles are a pretty good run defense. Fletcher Cox, that's as good a defensive lineman as there is in the league. But it's not like that's where the running issue started. It started before. You keep working on it. You know, the running game is probably the slowest thing to come around when you have a coaching change. This is the stadium where Aaron Jones had his breakout game a couple of years ago. He ran for like 120 or 125 yards. Really had a nice game. So, maybe they'll find the magic here. The Cowboys have a good defense. They have good inside linebackers, so that'll make it tougher. But maybe that defense isn't as good as the Eagles. They have 60 minutes here to prove that wrong.
So let's talk a little bit about the Packers' run defense. Mike wants to know, is the defense going to focus on stopping the run and making quarterback Dak Prescott play, in the words of Tramon Williams a couple of weeks ago, play quarterback? Yeah. At the time he was referring to Mitch Trubisky, but you could argue that they would apply the same sort of thinking here.
I would think.
So yes, Dak Prescott. The Packers' run defense has not been good the last several weeks. Against the Chicago Bears, I think they let up less than 60 rushing yards, and over the last 3 weeks it's been north of 150 or so rushing yards per team for the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So how do they get back to the numbers that they saw against Chicago?
I'm sure that they spent all week talking about it. Mike Pettin at his press conference was asked about it, and he said the emphasis all week was stopping the run, and it's more. He was suggesting it was less schematic and more, you got to win your battle. You can't. If you get blocked, you can't stay blocked. All those things. It's paramount because Ezekiel Elliott can beat you. He's a good enough back where he can beat you. Prescott's a better quarterback than the Bears had. Better quarterback than everybody they face except for Carson Wentz. So even if they do stop the run, if it takes everything that they have to do it, Prescott might hurt them with the play-action pass. But it does. You don't have to be a great run defense to win in this league. It's a scoring league, passing game, but you got to be okay. You got to be good enough. And the last 3 weeks, they really haven't been good enough. And Ezekiel Elliott, if they're not good enough today, Ezekiel Elliott will kill them.
Mike Pettin said this week that it really comes down to the defensive front being consistent and being sound in their basics.
Yeah.
He said it looked a little sloppy the last game against the Eagles. He also said that it didn't look like the guys were playing their gaps as true as they were supposed to be. Is it really that simple as just being fundamentally sound?
I don't know. I've talked with an assistant coach in the league who worked with someone who worked for Pettin at Cleveland, and he said that part of that Rex Ryan Pettin defense is it's more see ball, get ball than it is being super gap conscious. Now, Pettin did go spend some time, I think it was 2 seasons ago, or maybe it was last season, in Seattle working with Pete Carroll. He was out of the league for 2 years, but he went and spent training camp with him. Carroll is a real gap-conscious defensive guy, so maybe Pettin picked some things up there for his defense, but if he did, it hasn't shown in the last couple weeks.
Gotcha. Let's see. Back into the comments over here, you guys. We got some people. Josh is concerned about the defense. Do you think they'll have a remarkably stronger game than they did last week? They've had a very consistent 3 weeks up until their game against the Eagles. Do you think they'll get back on track this week against Dallas?
One thing in their advantage is they had last weekend off. The coaches got a jump on game planning for this game, so that should help them a little longer rest. But Cowboys have a couple great offensive linemen. Even with Tyron Smith out, they still are really good on the offensive line, and they have a great back. So the Packers' hands are still full, and will they? I don't know. What do you think?
So
will they be better this week?
They have no choice but to be better this week.
Yeah.
I think that this is an important game for them to come out strong in. Don't you think?
Oh, yeah. if they get run over again, I mean, that bodes really poorly for the rest of the season, because that'll be the blueprint to beat the Green Bay Packers, their defense is better, but if they just can't stop the run at all, it won't make the pass rush and the coverage won't make as much difference as it would if they're even okay against the run.
I was listening to Tom Silverstein and Jim Ozarski on the Packers podcast on the flight over here to Dallas, and they were saying that they've got the same record, 3-1. Today's game will really show, are they as good as their record is right now?
What's interesting is the Cowboys are 3-1, and they were kind of one of the talks of the league for the first 3 weeks, but they didn't play anybody. What was it? The Giants, Washington, and Miami were their first 3 games, and they were putting up these great numbers, but against basically bad teams. They played a good team last week in a tough environment in New Orleans. They lost a close game. It's kind of the same this is a real feeling out game, or a how good are you game for both of these teams, I think.
Mike also wants to know, how will Randall Cobb fare today? How has Cobb looked here with the Dallas Cowboys compared to his tenure with the Green Bay Packers?
He's looked the same, the same as he always did early in the season with the Packers. He's looked good. He'll probably go out and have a big game today. Maybe he'll even beat them. He'll make a couple plays that are the difference in the game. But the Packers did what they had to do there, moving on from him. It's just chances are he's going to get hurt as the season goes on, and he's a tough guy and he plays through it, but he's not the same guy afterwards. And that's why the Packers moved on, was just the injuries were catching up with him.
Aaron Rodgers said this week in the locker room that he was going to get out on the practice field before the game and throw a couple balls to Randall Cobb. It sounds like they did have some sort of interaction out there on the field moments ago. So a little bit sentimental if you're a Packers fan, I'm sure. So Pete, let's cut to the chase here.
Right.
What are you thinking about the game today? Who comes out on top?
Probably the same that most people are. No Davante Adams. Life's pretty tough if you're the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers and you don't have one of the best receivers in the league. Even if Kevin King plays, which it looks like he's going to, Bulaga's in, that's still a big loss. I went Cowboys 24-17, and you are?
I'm going Cowboys 30-17. I don't think it's going to be a very high-scoring game for the Packers, namely because Davante Adams.
So they're going to crush that 3.5-point spread then.
Yes, I think it's going to be a tough one for them here, but who knows, guys? We make these predictions, and sometimes we're right, sometimes we're wrong.
Yes.
So you can go ahead and hate on us in the comments like you enjoy doing. Pete, any final thoughts before we wrap up here at AT&T Stadium?
Not really. There's so much we talk about every game, and we're all thinking about all these things, and then what we say really doesn't matter a bit because it's all decided right there.
It's true. We never know. And they don't know either until they know. So, guys, thank you very much for joining us. I will be live with Ryan Wood after the game to break down what exactly happened over right here on the Facebook page, Periscope, YouTube, wherever you enjoy watching us. Thank you guys